Now, everybody has a Donnie story, and I think we should share those on a website or YouTube, or just to share them. I'd print it as a book. I'll tell you a few of mine. Donnie came into my life, I think we were in 8th grade at St. Paul's. And he came to my house, and I was an outsider because I went to public school, and I only had one suit coat. Other kids seemed to have 5, one for each day. And my first, in 7th grade, I remember my friends were Bob McGough and Kevin Wright, who were nice enough to take me to their homes, which were a lot nicer than my house. And then my house probably had something to offer too, in that I had a big dad who loved kids and liked to talk to them a lot about philosophy and sports and so many things. I didn't know how unique it was at the time. And my mom, who I later realized was great in her own way, in that she listened. She listened to everyone. And sometimes people only need you to listen. So people came to my house, I think they felt they were listened to. And I, as a kid, I don't know why I never felt any jealousy. I always was excited that people liked my parents and they liked them, even though they may have gone away to make fun of them, because my father was fat or my family. But for all the people that said mean things or made fun of my family, even in our neighborhood, they would send their kids to my parents to try to fix things often. But Donnie didn't have a father, and my father quickly became his. And I didn't have a brother, other than Mark, really, and the big boys, who were a wonderful influence. But Donnie was like a real brother. And from the beginning, we played ball some days, like morning until the next morning. I remember one day, playing baseball behind Loudon Hill, behind our house, for 5 or 6 hours, getting a drink at home, going to Park Gardens and playing basketball till we just couldn't see the ball anymore. And then he and I would go sit in my room, which was painted army green, and we would do mini concerts, which is where I'd put on Cat Stevens on the record player, take an earphone half off, and I would try to sing like him. And because it was like dim light in the room, it fooled you. It almost looked like there was like a lot of people watching you in concert. So Donnie had to be the cheering crowd, and I would try to sing like Cat Stevens, or sing like Neil Diamond, or sing like Bob Dylan. And Donnie would sing like James Taylor. And there was a song by Cat Stevens called Father and Son, and we had to eventually stop doing it in our little mini concerts because it would wake my father up. He would be drunk or asleep on the floor downstairs, and he could hear us. And if we started singing it, he'd say, "Jesus Christ, boy, get down here and sing that goddamn song about the Father and the Son. Jesus Christ, sing that, Donnie Mac, sing that goddamn song." And if I remember correctly, now Kevin, correct me on this, I believe Donnie got thrown off the St. Paul's basketball team. And he picked up the guitar and started to play. And he had a brother, Billy, who was a freak in so many ways, good and bad, who knew everything about music. I thought my brothers, older foster brothers, knew everything, but Billy really knew everything. And yelled at me when I went to his house. "Why don't you know who Joan Armatrading is? Why haven't you heard Barry McGuire's first unrecorded album? Why don't you know the songs off Billy Joel's Cold Spring Harbor?" And I would try to catch up with Billy. There was no internet at the time, right? So wherever I could find stuff. And Donnie and I began to share this love for music, like intense love. Almost a competition as to who could find this and that. And we began to sing together. And I called it my triangle of strength, Donnie, Mark, and my father. Because with them, we'd talk about sports, tell really bad, dirty jokes, philosophy, politics, and I can't believe as an adult what that has given me and meant so many other people that we grew up in that atmosphere. It gives you a head start on insanity, maybe. And then Donnie would get so pissed at me, and I so enjoyed that. And my father adored Donnie. He had this thing, Donnie Mac. When he was real excited, Donnie goddamn MacArthur. Like, he thought he was... My father taught him to cook up at Lake Winola next to our cottage, because people who drink a lot get very creative. Like, they'll cook anything. They'll cook your right foot if you let them. And Donnie would make real good food. And my father was a great audience for food. Like, he ate. And they developed this relationship. And one night, when Stephen was alive, Stephen Gresh, who was living over at the cemetery on Lake Winola, Donnie and my father and my foster brothers had this like meal of meals, corn and they cooked everything. And Donnie, Stephen, and I, and a kid that was gay, our age, who lived on the other side of the lake, I think his name was Jimmy. We decided we would go on these runs sometimes. And if you ran behind people's cottages at Lake Winola, they had beer and whiskey on their back porches. So we made a joke about Mrs. Miller, I believe it was, always had Pabst Blue Ribbon. We were sick of Pabst Blue Ribbon. And we went to the place next door, and it was Dewar's Pinch Bottle Scotch. And I said, I know this because my father drinks Pinch. And my father always drank, pure Scotch. Good Scotch is pure Scotch, no matter how cheap it is. And he'd chase it with a beer. I guess you have to figure that out. But we got a bottle of Scotch. And I remember, like, the first, what you'd call a 7-Eleven store, first after-hours store was open. It was like 11, 12 at night. And we all went down and got Coke. We bought Coke and ice and went up into the mountains behind the cemetery at Lake Winola, made a fire, and began to drink. And Stephen had bought at the 7-Eleven Nair, a hair remover. And Stephen and I, Donnie did not like being with Stephen and I together because we would do really stupid and silly, like go into the A&P market and pretend we were blind and run into shelves, or Stephen would play autistic and I would try to keep him from dribbling on the fruit. Or if we were stoned, to grab the microphone at the Burger King drive-in on Clark Summit there and sing the Doors songs. But Stephen got a hold of Jimmy, who was really drunk, and sprayed the Nair in his pants and patted his nuts. And we all, got drunk to the point of falling asleep. And Jimmy woke up and you could hear him yelling, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my hair's coming off." He was like taking a leak and all of his pubic hairs were falling off. And Stephen said, "Oh my God, my brother had that, and like first your hairs fall off and then your dick falls off, and it's bad." And screaming, laughing. But I'm not a good whiskey drinker, and I was drunker than I realized. And when morning came, I had to go to work. I would hitchhike from our house at the lake to the East Mountain because I was digging ditches for the Britners. And as we're walking home across the lake road, we dropped Stephen off. It was just me and Donnie. And Donnie kept saying, "You stink." And I was like holding my head, just trying to walk. And when we got to my house, to the cottage, outside, he said, "You smell like shit." And when I walked into the bathroom, I realized I had shit my pants somewhere through the night. And I had to go right to work. So the same jeans, I washed them out in the shower, put them on, and went down the hill to hitch to work, still half retarded. And it was a hot day, and I thought I was going to die digging. And I came home, Donnie wasn't working. He was with my father, and they were having a good time in the kitchen cooking something. And I heard my father go into the bathroom, and I was still outside the cottage, and I can hear him say, "Jesus Christ, Shirley," to my mother. something shit in the goddamn shower. And he said, and then they could hear him yell, and it's God's human shit. Jesus Christ. Where's Todd? And I stayed enough away that he then yelled for Donnie, you know. Donnie, get in here. And I could hear Donnie saying, oh, no, Pop, no. Donnie, clean this goddamn shower. And to the day Donnie died, he never forgave me for having to clean up my shit in the shower. But playing basketball, I really enjoyed, as Donnie would shoot, to just softly say, miss, and he would freak. I think one of the prettiest times we had was Christmas of 1983, when my father had just died, like 3 weeks before, and Donnie, at my father's funeral, Donnie freaked out. He just couldn't handle it. And he had written a song for my dad called Mystical Man. And I've tried over the years to write a song for my dad that beat that, and I haven't been able to. But we sang for Christmas Mass. Donnie, my sister Laurie, Marissa Mealy, and myself. And of course we weren't real ready. It was only the 4 of us. But some of those songs, like sometimes the gods lay their hands on your shoulders and say, this will be good. And I remember one of them, Donnie sang with my sister. What was it? Darling, you can count on me till the stars dry up the sea. Guess by now you know that I'm devoted to you. And there was a song he would sing. He got to sing all the James Taylor songs. And I made a joke once that someday you're going to die and I'm going to sing all them James Taylor songs. Because my voice wasn't that high and pretty. Mine was lower, a baritone. And my favorite, I think, was he would sing a song by James Taylor called Millworker. Well, my grandfather was a sailor. He blew in off the water. My father was a farmer, and I his only daughter. He took up with a no-good mill-working man from Massachusetts. He dies from too much whiskey and leaves me these 3 faces to feed. Millwork, it ain't easy, and millwork ain't hard. Millwork, it ain't nothing but an awful boring job. I write home in the evening, staring at my hands, swearing by my sorrow that a young girl ought to have a better chance. And me, I work the mills just as long as I am able. I never see the man whose name is on the label, but it be me and my machine for the rest of the morning, for the rest of the afternoon, or for the rest of my life. Kevin, Ned, Gene, Chris Kane, Jimmy Cadden, Woody, Nancy Nallen, Jack Woodbridge, all of my family, Gene Kelly. There's just so many people that shared in these lives. We're rich. I'm just certain that this lifetime isn't enough. There's a big river like this we're going to get across. My mom, who only gave us love and respect. Think about that. Never criticized a thing in any of us. She has Alzheimer's, and she's dying, and it's a vicious disease. It steals many things. It steals your dignity, and it steals your control. And I said to my sisters, we're going to take Mommy to the other side with dignity. No fear. Stare right in the face of death. No bullshit. We don't fear you because we have love. And I'm not I'm not turning to a God or Allah, the Buddha, but to that love, which I'm certain of. And today, 30 years after losing the physical presence of Donnie and Mark, I'm certain that they're in all of us. I think it's time now for Ned and Jean to say, Todd, you're really full of yourself. And I am, because I don't know who else I'd be full of. I love you.